Rightio, so I'm going to take a break from drawing architecture because my mind is a little bit numb from all of that. And I'm going to go back to drawing some faces, some figures, just sketching through. So this is the first drawing of the day today. So I'm going to be pretty rusty. Might actually switch pencils. I want a softer pencil. There we go, that feels better. I'm not too worried about proportions or anything like that. I'm just sketching, I'm just playing around today. So, like I said, this is the first drawing of the day, so I don't think it's going to be any good. I kind of need to warm up a little bit. But I'm going to try and draw quickly, or at least fairly quickly. That's kind of how I like to start off with. Okay. Let's draw that. So when I warm up, I like to just kind of just draw as quick as I can without rushing. Because it's not a race, but drawing quickly just helps me think a bit faster. So I'm not really after perfection. I'm really just after ideas more than anything. Let me just quickly go over the outline of this guy's face here. Just want to strengthen some of those outlines. There we go. All right. So I'm just kind of showing you my sketching process here because just kind of want to show you guys how much effort I put in to actually draw figures. And I have to go through quite a lot of mediocre sketches until I can finally produce something that's worth looking at. And I'm doing multiple things. Like I'm trying to draw all of this from my head. So I'm trying to remember the planes of the face because it's just a good exercise to do that. I'm trying to remember the things that I know about rendering. Stuff like that, really. And I'm also trying to improve my line work a little bit. It's not too bad. It's a little bit scribbly, a little bit wobbly, but I don't mind that. That's kind of what makes sketches look nice, I think. I'm going to use this pencil. If you're wondering, this is just a 6B pencil that I'm using. I like to use really soft pencils for sketching because then I can just create like really nice fuzzy lines. And soft lines are good because they're a bit more ambiguous, I think. But I'm just going to record this video in real time. So I'm just going to leave it completely unedited because I think people prefer that, to be honest. Like, it's kind of good to watch how somebody works. I think you learn a lot just by watching. And as I said earlier, like, I'm not promising that I'm going to draw anything amazing today. I have a lot more bad sketches than I do good sketches. That's just part of being an artist, you know? You got to do a lot of bad drawings before you do a good one. And that's just the reality of drawing, you know? It's I think it's one of the hardest things you'll ever learn in your life. I don't think it ever gets easy. So you just got to kind of go with the flow a little bit. Just embrace the mistakes and just try to learn as much as you can. That's really the it's really all you can do at the end of the day. And you learn in a variety of ways. Like, we're very visual creatures as artists, so we learn a lot by looking and watching how somebody else draws. We learn by looking at illustrations and diagrams and schematics, things like that, things of that nature. Okay, I don't want to render this thing too much. This is really just a sketch, as I said, so I think I'll leave this one here. Maybe I'll just render around the edges of the eyeball a little bit. I was gonna try and like build up this sort of coarse shadow on the eyeball, but I'd have to, as you can see, I have to really go over that multiple times to really get a good result. So I want to keep it quick. I don't want to take too long. I spent long enough on that. Let's go with this one. What I will do though, just come along this side. I'm going to kind of just draw same thing pretty much. But I think I'll try and draw the eyelids, like the planes of the eyelids around the eyeball. I think that might be a cool drawing. So when I'm sketching, I'm kind of just drawing a bit of everything, to be honest with you. I haven't really got a specific idea in mind just yet. I've got a general idea of what I want to do today. But I don't know, we'll see. Okay. Let's Just going to draw these parts in lightly. You can see I use a lot of broken lines when I'm sketching. I don't like to draw complete lines. I like to keep them open and not enclose them too much. Right, so what I will do, I'm just going to slant that construction line down there. Just draw that on an angle. Just going to clean up my line work a little bit. I got a little bit messy. So I'm kind of drawing with fuzzy lines, and then I'm gonna sort of refine the planes of the line work with this pencil here. So I think the eyelid would go something like that. There's usually a little bit of a gap underneath the pupil. From the bottom lid and the pupil. If the eye is in a neutral position, of course. Right, so then we've got that line there. So I'm going to draw the thickness of the eyelid that wraps around. That's kind of how I like to draw it. Normally you've got to start with your largest shape first and then work smaller. You know, if you're drawing portraits and things like that, that's definitely a good method of working. But for these smaller studies, I figured I might as well start with the eyeball and then just draw the eyelids going around it. Just seems a bit easier for me to draw it that way. And again, I'm not too concerned about the technicalities of the perspective, I guess. Of the proportions, sorry. Because you can get really involved with the proportioning of these things, but today I've decided to just kind of give myself a break from that and just sketch. The thing is, human bodies, they come in various different shapes and sizes, so you should familiarize yourself with the classical proportions of figures and things like that. But also be aware that they're only guidelines. So I'm just drawing the outer part of the bottom eyelid right now, and I'm just trying to think about what the planes of that actually is. So it's like if I join this corner with this corner down here, I've got a plane change right there. And I got one right here too. I like to kind of curve them a little bit. You see how they're like slightly curved? They're not quite straight. Because there aren't really any straight lines in human anatomy. There's always some kind of curvature. And the bottom of the eyelid, this is a general proportion that you can use. So the very bottom of that lower eyelid kind of hits tangent with the eyeball. That's how I draw it. Sometimes it's drawn differently depending on the artist. I've seen a lot of diagrams of eyeball constructions, and you know, it's funny, they all kind of do their own thing at one point. Like each artist kind of has their own little rules, which just, you know, is built up through experience. So I'm just drawing the top eyelid now. So that's the thickness of the eyelid there. Top eyelid would sort of come down at a point, maybe there. And then it will sort of curl into this corner, and then it curves out into that eye socket. It's normally what it does, from memory anyway. Tear duct, which a bit tricky to draw this. It would kind of, I guess, look something a bit like that. And then this layer of skin, there'd be like, you create like a little bit of a thickness around there. I'm sorry I'm not describing my process in detail. This wasn't really intended to be an in-depth tutorial or anything. This is just kind of a, just sketch along with me kind of thing. I thought this video might be useful if you just kind of want to know how I think when I'm sketching, and yeah, just some of the thoughts that go through my mind, because I think that can help too. That looks pretty cool. Let's maybe shade it in. So let's see, if the light is coming from here, let me just do a little diagram. That's the light source. We'll do the same thing in this image as well. We'll keep the same light source coming from the angle there. So then this plane would sort of be turning into shadow. That's why learning the planes of the human face is so important, so you can actually shade it in properly. This one, definitely in shadow. So I'll put some hatching strokes in there. This part, maybe the tear duct as well. This would have a cast shadow. Be a shadow there. The lower eyelid as well. Maybe it's more of a half tone, but that would eventually turn into shadow at some point. Maybe here. See, you know, when you're shading in the planes, you just got to think about where that plane is facing. So the lower eyelid is turned down, so that would be in shade. This is also kind of facing down, but I think it would get a little bit of light from that angle, so I might just do that as a half tone. This top lid would be turning into shadow here. Yeah, something like that. What do I want to do? Let's just shade this part in. So I like to render pretty lightly to begin with. I also like to, if I've drawn the planes of the eye, then I kind of like to kind of guesstimate where some of those cast shadows are falling on it, which I'm kind of just making it up, to be honest. But I'm kind of taking what I've learned from casting shadows on architecture in my architectural drawings, and then I'm kind of just kind of guesstimating where the shadows would fall on the figure. I like to render them slightly darker than the shades. So it's not hard to imagine that the shadow would probably do something a bit like that, maybe. We've got that shade of the eyeball, which would be somewhere there. Just running along the edge of the eyelid, somewhere thereabouts. And that's the thing, it's funny, like when I draw figures and anatomy from imagination, it's like it's hard to kind of remember the proportions, but when you get into the act of drawing, it's like your memory comes back in the middle of the process, which is why quick sketching is so useful, because I think a lot of people get overwhelmed with human anatomy as a subject, which is fair enough, man, because it's hard. But when you start, drawing it, then it kind of just jogs, like the act of drawing just jogs your memory. And you start remembering things again. Because I've not drawn an eyeball like this for a while. Not since since I made that portrait course, which was last year. Like these kind of really in-depth sketches. Not really done for a while. I just need to soften this core shadow a little bit. I think I might just leave this one here because I could be here all day. Like I could really just keep going over this and rendering it till I get it to a really cool finish. But there's other things I want to draw today, so maybe I'll just draw a sliver of cast shadow from this eyelid here. And in there maybe. might look cool. Yeah, like I was saying, I could probably just be here all day doing this one, but it's not really what I want to be doing. It's all right. What else could we draw? Let's draw another figure like this guy. Let's use that pencil. So, you know, you could draw heads using the Loomis method and things like that if you wanted to be really proportionate and technical about things. I'm kind of just sketching really loosely now, so it's like I'm keeping some of the proportions in mind, but I'm drawing loosely because I just want to keep it more expressive so I can really design a little bit more, if that makes sense. And I find by drawing loosely and expressively, it doesn't always turn out well, but sometimes it does. I just find you can create more interesting characters. So, you know, if you're a character designer or something like that, then maybe playing around with shapes a little bit more is a good idea. And I'm just trying to use very basic lines. I don't want to draw anything like I'm using this straight line for the eye socket there. I might even repeat that diagonal for the nose there. Just trying to visualize. Like I'm just going to try and keep my line work pretty simple. I don't want to overcomplicate it for these sketches. I'm just kind of exploring what I've got. So there's that neck muscle. I can't remember the name of it now. You know, the one that kind of sits just behind the ear and then attaches into the neck at the front there, maybe. What else? We got the temple. Somewhere there. I don't know. So yeah, like I was saying, like the Loomis method is very helpful, I think, if you want to do it that way. But I just find my only problem with the Loomis method is a lot of my characters kind of end up looking the same. I don't know if anybody else gets that problem. So I just try to loosen up a little more now these days. Because even though I might not be drawing totally anatomically accurate, I find I get more interesting results. And my figures just look a little more dynamic. They don't look as stiff. I might put his whole face in shadow. That might look better. Kind of looks pretty cool. think I've definitely drawn that part wrong. That's all right. Just a sketch. I feel like there would be a bit of shadow where that cheekbone is, maybe. I want to make him look a little bit older. I could put like a little wrinkle there. I don't know, I didn't really know where I was going with that guy. Okay, let's what's okay, let's think about maybe something like that. I'm going to draw another eye, but sort of at an angle. Oh, wait a minute. Oh. Forgot to draw the thickness. So there's a thickness in the eyes. Let me use this pencil. A little bit cleaner. Since it looks like I'm going a little more technical. So it takes a while for my brain to kind of wake up. When it does, it's pretty cool. All right, so what do I want? I'm going to attach that into there. I'm going to draw that and then and it's really hard to think about anatomy as a three-dimensional form Took me a while actually to learn how to draw the human body like this. But that's why I keep saying, you know, perspective drawing is so important. Because perspective drawing teaches you how to visualize things three-dimensionally. Okay, so let's draw. I'm having a look at the curvature of this eyeball, and the eyelid is going to kind of follow that curve. And the lower eyelid is a little bit wider on the outer side here. So I might draw that. And then there's like a corner somewhere here. And then that would curve too, to meet that there. And then I've just drawn that little bump because, I don't know, because I think it looks cool. So that's the cool thing about human anatomy. It's like, all you got to do is kind of be aware of the general proportions, but you can change things, you know. Like different people, I'm just going to continue that curve up there. Different people have different kind of shapes, right? But yeah, I like to draw like these sort of eyeball studies. I mean, like I said, it's been a while since I last drew them like this. But I like to do them because they just help me think about the eye in a more three-dimensional way, which is very useful for when you're going to be drawing characters. I'm just drawing the pupil as a more elliptical shape, since we are seeing this on an angle. Need to clean that line up. I don't know why I did that. So I'm wondering maybe if I can draw the eye socket around it, maybe. That might be a cool... I'd have to kind of sketch it in there. So it wouldn't be totally accurate. But you know, if the nose starts at the tear duct and then that'd be a plane in there. Usually, so the eyebrow would be up there. Might just tone that in, just very, very generally. It's kind of hard to draw that when working from a detail. If I wanted to draw that in properly, I should have drawn the eye socket first and then the eye. I find it very difficult to do that backwards, but that's all right. Challenge is always good.